over time. How to achieve this consolidation? In our view, the tax system needs to be improved. Kazakhstan doesn't collect a lot of non-oil taxes for an economy of its level of income and level of development. So it's when you have oil revenue, sometimes you say, well, what do we need to collect taxes for? Let's just live off individuals pay a higher share or a higher tax rate than the poorest. That's a progressive tax system. Why do we think there are risks? For example, risks that come from the financial sector. We'll talk about those in a minute or two. And savings for future generations. It's not fair if this generation consumes all the oil revenues and they tell the next generation, well, good luck. So it's good to have the savings element in place. Let's focus on structural reforms for the next 3 or 4 years. These aim to increase the efficiency of the big enterprises that are in the public sector, to attract more financing, and thereby to help diversify the economy. So we see some privatization plans for a number of big enterprises. The first 3 that are expected to undergo initial public offerings are Air Astana, Kazakh Telecom, and Kazatomprom. And there are also plans underway for Kazmuna Gas, for Kazakh Railways, for lots of big companies, Samurk Energy. A third element is the development of the Astana International Financial Center, which also aims to enhance financial development in Kazakhstan and in the region and attract funding as well. There are a number of initiatives that aim to strengthen Kazakh structure, as in China and Europe, this so-called Silk Road, One Belt, One Road initiatives. These have already improved the railway of the country, and also the road network. And it's hoped that there should be spillovers from that. It shouldn't be just a kind of a closed pipe going from China to Germany, that there should be plenty of business opportunities because of improved infrastructure and lower costs transport across Kazakhstan, not only from China to Europe, China to Iran, China to the Middle East, from Russia to Central Asia. I mentioned, though, in my overview of the points, a number of challenges have to be overcome. So the policy response has been good, but the situation is difficult. Here's some challenges that I wanted to share with you. The real economy, difficult to diversify away from a state and oil-dominated economy. The business relations are quite entrenched in Kazakhstan. It is an economy that's dominated by oil and metals and minerals. It's a state economy, and it's difficult to do something about that, especially when the economy is growing slowly. The structural reforms under the 100 concrete steps, they're complicated, they're difficult to design, and they're difficult to implement. And if you take the 100 concrete steps at its essence, it would be a much smaller the state and a more open and transparent business environment. This is a much different economic model than Kazakhstan's past 25 years. Kazakhstan's an economy that's dominated by the state. It's dominated by oil and gas, and frankly, it's dominated by oligarchs. So the 100 concrete steps would be a different approach. It requires a different business model, which is not easy. For the privatization program, you need buyers. And right now, with growth weak in Kazakhstan now, with the growth in its trading partners expected to be moderate going forward, it's not easy buyers for we're not selling at the top of the market. On monetary policy, as I mentioned, high dollarization is a big challenge for tenge-based monetary policy framework. A dollarization, though, It's not something that you can address easily with some policy actions. The most important way to address dollarization is from a long period of stability and credibility of monetary policy. We have about a year of that so far. We've had some progress in reducing dollarization, but it's still, as I mentioned, around 60%, so it will take time. The change of focus of monetary policy to inflation and exchange rate flexibility, it's difficult. People have gotten used to a stable exchange rate for periods of time. If there was going to be some pressures, like oil prices start to decline again, that will create downward pressures on the tenge, and people would need to get used to that. That's normal. That happened. The National Bank can't be held responsible to secure the economy from changes in oil prices. On the other hand, if oil prices continue to increase, that will mean that the tenge will strengthen, and it will put pressure on exporters. And the export sector, it will mean that some sectors like agro-processing that have just started because of doing relatively well now would come under pressure on their exports. Inflation, sometimes high interest rates in order to bring inflationary expectations down. This is tough when the economy is not growing fast. So we heard calls Astana for the National Bank to do more about growth. The National Bank should support growth. It should long-term cheap finance. That's not what inflation targeting is. So that and I mentioned a few minutes ago that the National Bank is about 3 every day interest down. So there's a lot of money out there that to projects. It's not going to projects. Why? Because in part because inflation is still seen as high, interest high. So the big part with the National Bank. It's also the case that that the National Bank can't solve some of the structural issues. So more money when the economy needs reform, when the financial sector, which we'll come to, is in difficult shape, would only mean higher inflation. On fiscal policy, I told you our this is popular. Someone has to pay those higher taxes, so that's so it's not to cut low priority spending. My